Next team in our season preview comes from the California, not the sunniest part of the California like LA Kings and Anaheim in previous sections, but San Jose Sharks that was a few years ago one of the top teams in NHL, but last season was complete disaster and they were the last team in Western Conference. Tommy, which San Jose will come up this season, the one in the top form or the one in the rock bottom?
Yeah, that's the question, the $1 million question, I think. San Jose is definitely not as bad a team as they were last season. So it was a complete disaster, of course, for Joe Thornton's last one in the Sharks uniform. It started badly from the beginning. They were losing games they should have won. The players were underperforming, and then eventually they fired the head coach, Peter DeBoer, as well. They are not the worst team in California. It seems that the simulations don't really like California, so we have Kings and Ducks under them. But otherwise, San Jose is probably not going to be contending this time around either, unless all their players find their stride again, which could happen. But it's interesting to see how much they can do better this time around. How about our predictions? How have we been doing with San Jose in the past?
San Jose, like I said, was a very good team 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and we have been predicting especially their home games pretty correctly. So when we compare the San Jose home games that they had over 57% win percentage, and you would follow our predictions, you would make around $300 out of those games profit. But if you would just follow the odds of the best team in San Jose home games, and if it was, like in many cases, it was San Jose, you would be losing money. So it would be also in upcoming season important to check the predictions and not the only odds. Another interesting topic is the change of scenery. So whenever San Jose is playing first game, either home or on the road, they have been very good. Especially on the road, they have been winning very many of those games. So actually 58% of their first road games have been won by them, compared to only 45% of all of their home games. And naturally that results that whenever there is expected value for San Jose in those first road games, you would be making money. So that is almost $800 out of those games during the last 3 seasons. Also, first home game is good for bettors, so they're with side value or expected value over $600 profit by betting San Jose in first home games. How do you see the new divisional alignment, or not so new, but there are a few other teams that San Jose is playing against compared to the last few seasons?
Yeah, I think it will be really interesting to see the repetition of the playoffs run 2 years back, where they faced Golden Knights and Avalanche in a 7-game series. So there is a kind of a little bit of a rivalry going on there. Of course, the California teams then have like a local stuff going on. So it will be very intriguing to see how Sharks are matching up with the better teams. They should be beating the Kings and the Ducks comfortably, but against Golden Knights and Avalanche and the better teams in the division, it might be a tough challenge for them. When it comes to the changes this season, Joe Thornton left, which is kind of an end of an era. Patrick Marleau came back from Pittsburgh, so there is still the veteran presence there. But otherwise, very small adjustments to the team. So they should be able to repeat what they did 2 years ago, but it does seem more likely that they will continue where they started off last season. So they can't play any worse than they did. So they will do a little bit better, but we'll see how much better. How about, do you have some data on the divisional matchups with the Sharks?
Yes, Sharks have been performing very well against those two other Californian teams. So they have been winning Anaheim and LA by clear margins. For example, against Anaheim, the win percentage is 73%, and especially on the road, they won 3 out of 4 games in Southern California. Against Kings, even more, 4 out of 5 away games, and naturally those are the games that combined with the historical track record of very good first road game performance, we would check this season as well. Then other teams, like you mentioned, Vegas, Colorado, now Minnesota as well, Arizona, those have been more equal matchups during the regular season and postseason. We have all the games here, both regular season and playoffs from the last 3 seasons in this review. So there it would be more 50-50 matchups, but I think if there is some good expected value for San Jose in those away games, that would be worth to bet.
Yeah, that's one of the interesting points, is to see that is it gonna be the Sharks of last season or the Sharks of the season before that, because the team is pretty much the same with a couple of small adjustments. They still do have a good goaltending tandem in Martin Jones and Devan Dubnyk now arriving as a backup. Their defense is of course led by Brent Burns and Erik Karlsson, one of or two actually of the Norris candidates. So the top of their defense is really good offensively. At least they've had some issues in the defensive end, and that's something that probably is going to be something the other teams will look to exploit, is the offensive awareness of the defense. In the offense, they have a lot of production from Thomas Hartl, Logan Couture, Evander Kane, Timo Meier. So it's quite a deep offense they have, but it remains to be seen who's going to take the number one offensive leader cape here, and who is going to be the one who is then being the game breaker for Sharks, because that's something they really lacked last year, was to turn these games that were evenly matched to their favor, and that's why they ended up in the bottom of the pile. How about the season predictions we've been doing with Sharks? How have we been doing in the past?
So last season, like you said, was a complete disaster, and we didn't predict exactly so big disaster, but still we predicted them to finish under, and that was naturally correct bet for all those bookmakers who awarded season bets in this shortened season. 2 years ago, it was narrowly under that we predicted Sharks to finish, but they made it over. They were second in Western Conference 2 years ago, and 3 years ago we predicted them to go over, and they were over, not as high in the ranks of the Western Conference, but that time it was very competitive, and they were 6th in Western Conference, and they scored 100 points. So that was another correct prediction in our pre-game season futures. Do you see right now that they would go over or under? Because I'm pretty sure that for the bookmakers it's a bit difficult team to predict as well, based on last year complete failure.
Yeah, they definitely do have the upside to contend. They could challenge Avalanche, Golden Knights, the top teams of the division. But it remains to be seen that how will they start the season. They have a new head coach, new head coach since halfway last season, but How are they going to play, and how are the better players performing? They need a lot of production from Brent Burns and Erik Karlsson and the like. So it's really tough to predict, like you said, probably really tough for the odds makers as well. So we have to wait for the points line to come out. If it's remarkably low, I would pick the over there. But if San Jose is predicted to go to playoffs, I would say they won't. So there is that, but it's a very much of a coin flip, and we have to see the start of the season, how they are starting the games, and how does it look, and there you can do a lot more predictions after that.
How about right now? There are some Stanley Cup odds available. Anything worth to bet there at odds over 10,000 for San Jose Stanley Cup victory?
With those odds, it might be worth a long shot, not for a lot of money, but San Jose was a couple of years back in the finals. They were contending 2 years ago. So the team is pretty much the same, if not even a little bit better. So it's a tough call, but I could bet a little bit on San Jose to win the Stanley Cup.
Okay, I think it would be still good to save some money for other bets as well and see how it would go. But San Jose, a very interesting team. Let's see how they perform this season.
Yeah.